can Ron work some of his late season magic? And that I think that's a little bit of a stretch because if you look and see what he's done, specifically here, late in seasons, in 2020, he was 5-4 post-bye week. He did the same thing in 2021. In 2022, he was 4-1 from November on.
Yeah, well, they're kind of basing it on him being like 11-3 in November.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's one thing that they're basing it on. And he always starts off so poorly that relative to that, the second half always seems stronger. Now, I think that the schedule's difficult, but I do think he's in a somewhat soft part. Now, I think that we are deserved underdogs against Seattle, but I do think they're beatable. And then I think, obviously, the Giants are beatable. So he could go on a little run. And I watched his presser again yesterday. I'm telling you, this guy is weirdly confident for where they are with a losing record, holding court in front of these reporters.
Right.
He's weirdly confident.
That's what happens after a win. Even though you didn't, even though you didn't blow them out after a win, you feel confident.
You got some swagger. Get some swagger back.
I don't believe he has the secret November sauce.
There's no secret sauce.
I don't buy into it. If you want to chime in, 800-636-1067. If you think they're going to take off, I'll give him credit. Last year, for example, 3-1 in November. However, let's look at the games. All right, they lost to the Vikings on November 6th. Then they pulled off the upset against the Eagles, which surprised us all. Then they beat the Texans and Falcons. All right, it's so opponent dependent. Can they win in Seattle? Sure. But I'm going to bet they don't. And then that swagger that he has right now, it'll probably be erased.
By the way, they're expecting points to be scored in this game. The over-under here is 45.5. So, I mean, this...
Oh, is it?
They're looking for some fireworks potentially in this game.
The one thing, maybe it's wrong, but one thing I've kind of thought in my head as I've watched Ron coach here the last few years is that I don't know how great they are in-game adjustments and that kind of thing. I don't know. But they do seem to make adjustments as the season goes on. They do find their weaknesses and slowly start scheming around them and tweak things. Like the offensive line tweaks that they've made, they've been huge.
Benching Forbes seems to have paid off at least for a game.
Motivated them a little bit. I don't know. So I actually think they have a little shot here to go on a little run.
I think they have a shot because I would say they're definitely going to win against the Giants.
I'm not counting it, but they should. They should beat the Giants.
I mean, unless Matt Barkley comes in there and starts lighting it up.
I think we've learned that we can't chalk up wins for this team against anybody, no matter how lowly the opponent is.
I'll agree with that.
We should have learned that by now.
But I'm still kind of chalking it up against the Giants.
If you can't beat Tommy DeVito and company, and you have to shut down one guy in that offense.
So this really is like your tipping point game.
Yeah.
Tipping point one way. If you win, all right, now you got a legitimate shot at the playoffs. Tipping point the other way, it's going to be the 6-11, 7-10 season that a lot of us expect.
That's a huge game. And who knows, can't predict what teams are going to look like later in the year. I mean, teams could get significant injuries and be different. But just based on the schedule right now, this is one of those games you got to steal. And you have to beat the Giants. You can't lose to them again. Got to beat the Giants.
I can't bet on them to beat a winning team until they do it.
Correct.
They have 4
Seattle's
wins.
a winning team.
Correct.
Right.
But I can't bet on Washington to win those games because based on what we've seen thus far, they can beat losing teams. But when they face a good team, they lose. They've had a couple close ones.
None of the 4 of us is picking Washington to beat Seattle.
I haven't made my official pick yet.
I haven't made my official pick.
I can see it in your eyes.
You can?
I just don't know.
You can see right through me?
I just don't know what I honestly don't know. It's one of those games I think it's you guys will have.
You think it's more 50-50?
I think it's more 50-50 than you think.
I don't know.
I know they're 6.5-point favorites or whatever. I think that's outrageous. I think it's actually disrespectful. They should be maybe 3-point favorites.
Okay. I mean, I don't know how much they're going to win by.
Because you always just give the home team an automatic.
Now, are you basing that?
That's what I think.
Are you basing that purely on the way Seattle looked last weekend? If Seattle would have lost 27-23 to Baltimore, would you be saying, "Yeah"?
Kind of the same. I actually think it hurts us that they had such a bad performance.
They're going to play. They're going to play a lot better.
Yeah.
And their receivers are going to do some damage.
What's helping the Commanders?
Even though Geno isn't great.
Kenneth Walker's banged up. He has a chest injury. I'm sure he's going to play, but he's not 100%.
Who's 100%
DK
now?
Metcalf has been dealing with injuries. JSN just popped up on the injury report. Like they've got some pretty significant injury issues right now heading into this game.
But back to your premise, I don't buy into the premise that Ron Rivera has some sort of great ability to turn things around late in the season because they've finished. I mean, you're going to talk about turning around. They finished 7-9. They finished 8-1 last year, 7-10, whatever it was. It's not like he's had any sort of success here in Washington.
Because they always start off so poorly. They always start off so poorly, and then he kind of rights the ship and keeps them competitive in the middle part of the season on. I mean, that's just true. I mean, it's not necessarily some great achievement because they start so poorly every year. I mean, they start out, by week 5, we always wonder if it's going to be a 3-win team. Every year. Mm-hmm. Well, every year we go, well, they're not going to be favored in any game. And then they find a way to claw.
In my opinion, Ron has had his last slow start to a season here in Washington.
Yeah,
this is his last slow start that people have to go through and have to endure.
I know. And he probably knows the writing is on the wall. We've heard that even coaches have kind of indicated that to guys. That, you got to go out there and play because.
But I would agree with you if they do win this game, and I'm not predicting them to win it, but if they do, and they come back and they're playing the Giants at home, and
so
they
then
win that game,
puts them, if they win this week and then win next week, that puts them at 6-5.
Right, and then obviously squarely in the mix for a playoff spot, even though you got some tough outs. But there's going to be a whole new confidence with Ron.
Assume you would lose to the Dolphins. I don't know. Rams. I don't have a great feel for the Rams this year.
They're not very good.
Well, they're not very good, but Stafford
again, you're traveling there to play. It's a long trip.
But let's just say that's winnable just because they're struggling this year. So let's just say, for the sake of argument.
Yeah.
Okay? That would put you at 7. I don't think Aaron Rodgers is going to be here. I think it's all hype.
That's still going to be a tough game because
they have a good defense. Yep. But I still think it's winnable.
You should be able to take advantage of Zach Wilson.
So that would potentially be 8, and then the only way you get to 9 is maybe, you beat the Cowboys.
Hey, look,
1 of 2 times.
What if that Cowboy game doesn't mean anything for the Cowboys? They've already solidified their seed, and they don't have to play their guys.
Right, but that's very little margin for error.
The Niners
hasn't Washington lost one of those games in the past?
Yes,
sure. The Niners,
but they beat them last year. I mean,
they have the Niners here late, correct?
Yeah,
they don't have to go to
New Year's Eve.
Second to last game.
Yeah, they have them here late. They cannot stop the pass. They are getting carved up, and your boy Sam Howell might have a field day against them.
Well, we'll see. We got different.
Chase Ambosa now.
They're going to step it up defensively.
We'll see.
All right, so there are 8 games left, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I just looked at Rivera since the topic was about Rivera and whether you buy into Rivera turning the team around late. And you can say relative to a bad start, he did. Mm-hmm. However, 2020, they closed off the season in the final 8 games 5-3. All right, that's pretty good.
What Cake said.
2021, 4-4. 2022, 4-3-1.
He's decidedly mediocre in all portions of the
He's
season.
maybe slightly.
That's markedly better than those first 8.
It's slightly less mediocre than the first 8.
Right. So he is a second half coach. Sorry. He's a second half coach.
But even if you went 500, it's not going to get it done unless you squeak in at 8-9.
Right. Which is a Ron special.
Yeah.
That's not happening this year, though. I thought it was a possibility.
2-3 weeks ago, you were saying
I thought it was a possibility, but now, based on some of these records, 8's not going to get you in.
All right, let's go to the phones. 800-636-1067 if you want to chime in. Let's see if these phones are working today. Let's go to Derek in Waldorf. Derek, what's up, buddy? You're on with the Junkies.
Yo, gentlemen, man. You guys is going on a bunch of topics, and I got a bunch of stuff to say on Open Line Thursday. First and foremost, no matter what happens every week, Ron Rivera's job is on the hot seat. Literally, it's on the hot seat. So if we don't beat this team this week, we lose, whatever. If we lose to the Giants, Ron Rivera, hot seat. If we go to the Jets and we don't beat the Jets, hot seat. We just need to fire him and Del Rio and get it over with. Just take the Band-Aid off and kill it. But for this week, gentlemen, maybe you guys want to take a wager. I think EB might be down on this. Commanders. Everybody put up $200 if you think the Commanders going to lose. I got Commanders. I think some people got Seahawks like Drab, which is a bad decision because Geno Smith is not elite. He's pretty mediocre. He's probably Matt Barkley status, actually.
Well, Matt Barkley's never had a year
he's
that
probably
Geno
Matt
had.
Barkley status, actually. Be honest, guys.
I mean, all right, I'm going to be honest.
honest.
He's better than Matt Barkley.
Yeah, I mean, Matt
Not
Barkley's,
that much better, though, Lurk.
Oh, come
Not
on.
that
he's
much
lucky
better.
to be on practice squads. At
I
this
mean, I
point
know
in
he's
his
not lighting
career.
it up this year, but come on, Matt Barkley's a practice squad
You
player.
can't say that. He's never had
so
a
what
year
was
anywhere
Geno
near
Smith
last year.
2 years ago? What was Geno Smith 2 years ago?
A backup.
Yeah, he was barely on
But
the
you
squad.
have to give him credit for the one. I think it was an outlier year, but you have to give him credit
Matt
for it.
Barkley has 11 career touchdowns and 22 career interceptions.
Derek, what was Sam Howell last year? The backup's backup. That doesn't make any sense.
No, it doesn't make any sense.
Nobody says Geno Smith's elite. I'm
Did
not
he want to
pounding
bet
the table.
200 on the game?
Sounded like
I
you want
guess.
to take 200 from each.
I just
Yes.
love
I
when
don't think
people
that's gonna
make
happen.
stuff up.
Might be interested in that.
So
Now,
Matt,
he would have to front the money.
Yeah, of course.
Matt Barkley, his comparison, the same as Geno Smith. And I'm not saying Geno Smith is some Hall of Famer,
Right.
but his career has 73 touchdowns to 55 interceptions. He said he's the same as guy who has 11 and 22.
No, he
No,
doesn't
he-
have any
there's
credibility.
double the
It doesn't matter.
interceptions.
Why are
There's-
you
I know.
analyzing
No.
him? He's a
Everyone knows he's wrong.
he's also doing a bit where Geno is worse than Howell, but there's 21 other starters on every other team. Howell can outplay
Yeah.
Geno, but the Seahawks can still win.
Yeah, of course. And you know what?
It's
I
not.
think
It's not. Yeah,
that
it's not
may
a cute-
happen. That may happen. Hal,
Yeah.
if I had to bet right now, Hal's probably going to outplay Geno, but I would agree with you. I think Seattle's going to win the game.
I'm just
Even
bitter.
though Washington is 7-1 or whatever the bizarre stat is, the last 8 times they've played at Seattle.
This is what I think about that.
Yeah, but that includes like within the last 5 years. A couple.
Yeah, but it also
but these are
includes
totally
when they're
different
running
teams.
the Rigo drill.
This are totally different teams. No, I don't put any stock into that. But let's just see how they come out. It's a huge game. Huge.
All right, let's go to Thomas in D.C. Thomas, what's up? You're on with the Junks.
What's up, Junks?
Hey, Thomas.
So, quick question: if we decide as a franchise that Sam Howell is the guy, right? Do we give that credit to Ron Rivera for picking him
He wants
late
it.
round, develop him? You know what I'm saying? And now turning him into our franchise quarterback. One, do we give that credit to Ron? And two, if we give that credit to Ron, does that earn him one more year at the helm?
Well, that's what he's.
No,
That's his whole
I-
shtick.
I don't think so,
Personally, I would
Thomas.
say yes, you give him credit, but no, you
Yeah,
not give
I'm
him
sure
another
that's
year.
his selling point, but he's missed on way too many other things to stick
And-
around.
Why wouldn't you give more credit to Bieniemy than Ron for developing Hal?
Well,
I mean,
just
you
for
should get
And I don't
Discovering
think
him.
that's going to
Bieniemy.
get him another year. No, I don't think so.
For discovering him. The thing is that Ron even admitted he had no idea what he had in him.
Mm-hmm.
He did an interview this year and says, "Hell, if I knew I had
Right.
him, if I knew this kid was this good, I would have played him last
He
year."
wasn't even going to play him in the final game. Heineke was fed up and said, start this guy.
Another
Yes.
classic Ron gaffe of just talking too much and saying something he doesn't need to say. Just throwing us raw meat like we're tigers with raw meat.
Yeah.
Please keep talking, Ron.
He had no idea what he had.
And then when he had that little locker room speech after the game, he was like, oh, maybe we should go with him. And I do think the Purdy effect had something to do with it.
100%. If Purdy didn't have that success, they wouldn't have given him the benefit of the doubt.